from conquering 5 km open water swimming marathons to navigating the waters of AI implementation, our next speaker proves that mental challenges know no bounds. Nadezhda embodies the spirit of natural creativity, and when she's not revolutionizing UX research, you'll find her hiking mountains or sailing seas, pursuing her belief that nature is the source of everything. Her talk, What Does the UX Researcher Do When It Comes to Implementing AI, springs from her passionate belief in data-driven decision-making. Her advice to UX newcomers is refreshingly direct. Validate all your design assumptions and decisions with user data. You would, anyway, have to defend them at some point. It's better to have the data to back you up. Whether she's navigating open waters or the seas of AI implementation, Nadezhda demonstrates that the best solutions come from understanding and working with the forces around us, not against them. Nadezhda, the stage is yours.
Okay, so first, thanks for the intro. If it was me, I would just say, hi, I'm Nadia. And I will talk about what does the UX researcher do when it comes to implementing AI. But before that, let me tell you a few things about me and why I will present exactly this topic. So I work as a user researcher in SAP, and I have been working as such for more than 4 years already. But besides that, I have background in software engineering, and actually my master's degree is in artificial intelligence. So I was on the side of the developing the machine learning algorithms, and now I'm actually researching how the AI behaves and how this impacts the user experience. And earlier this year, I was assigned to a task to lead the research activities about completely new AI functionality that we want to offer, not only but will offer in the cloud platform of SAP, the so-called business technology platform. But before I dive deep into this topic, I would share some observations. If we see what is currently the adoption of the AI technologies among business leaders, we will find out that most of them not only have adopted it already, but they're already offering it to their customers and therefore to their users. And leaders like IBM, Microsoft, Google, and many more, which are competitors of SAP, are already providing this benefit to their customers. And we can say that there is a significant trend to quickly offer AI solutions. And this trend is driven by the fact that it could have many potential benefits for our users, so that it could save a lot of time. It would make the users much more productive. It could help with the decision making. It could support the whole topic with cost transparency and cost management. And that's why this trend exists. But we can also observe that this builds up a lot of pressure among business leaders to quickly offer this kind of technology. And SAP is not an exception to that. That's why in the beginning of the year, we announced that we will offer AI functionality to the cloud platform. And we will do this so that we will enhance the user experience there. And therefore, I joined the project to lead the research activities. And I joined it soon after they announced it. But it looked like the developers had already skipped a few of the steps, and they were already in the development phase. And by the development phase, I don't mean they had planned what to do, and they had some ideas for use cases. They had developed these use cases. And it was not a POC, it was actually working thing that we could release to our users a few months after. But was this actually enhancing the user experience as we announced it? Or was it just replicating what was there in the graphical user interface, but now in a conversational manner? So basically, this is what we had. We had an AI assistant in the form of a chatbot. And do we actually use AI to solve non-existing problems? So here is one thing really important to me that I would want to point out, and I think our project is not an edge case. This is a general observation for me, and this is that now with this trend, with this urge to quickly offer AI solutions, we definitely risk to put a lot of effort into making it, especially since it's a complex topic. We risk to put a lot of effort into making it, and yet to bring no value to our users. So this is what I did as a researcher. I went back to square one, went back to the discovery phase, and start searching for problems that the AI could solve, since we have already announced that we will offer AI in the cloud platform. And first, we started with user interviews. We started with qualitative approach, and there we were looking for a problem. But since we already had use cases, we had to see whether are they relevant to our users, would they use them at some point? And now when we talk about AI and doing research for AI, there are so many other points of interest that the researcher needs to pay attention to. For example, what should be the interaction with the AI? Should it be, as we presented, an AI assistant in the form of a conversation? Or would it be better to be embedded directly in the UI for some of the use cases, or something running directly in the background? So we had to check this, and we had to see what are our users' expectations about it. And another thing that is now point of interest is what should be the level of the automation? Should the AI do something on behalf of the user, or should the user be the only one that takes the action? So this is what we wanted to learn, and this is why we did user interviews with representatives of customers, and we followed this structure for the interviews. So first, we asked about demographics, and we asked about their customer landscape, how they use the platform, how often they do certain tasks, what problems they have. And based on that, we try to derive the solutions that the AI will handle. And this is because if you ask a user, do you want to have AI functionality in a cloud platform? Of course they would want to have it, and of course they would add it to every tiny feature that's possible. After that, we try to learn more about their general understanding and about their expectations. So as I told you, the level of automation, how they want to interact with it. But we also want to see whether they have any concerns regarding using AI, and whether they would trust such a system so that it could do some tasks on behalf of them in a cloud platform. So, and at the end, as I said, we had use cases, so we had to see whether they are relevant to our users. And as you can already imagine, some of them were not relevant as we wanted them to be. But this is not the important thing. I would like to share two very important findings that I think are not specifically related to a cloud platform or to AI in a cloud platform, but could be relevant for everyone that would deal with this topic at some point. So we had the goal to enhance the user experience by using AI, and we should stick to this goal. We should not try to solve problems that exist from a long time ago that are directly related to the user experience, that are related to the architecture. We should not try to fix them by adding AI, and we should actually use the benefits of this complex technology and support with saving time and improving the productivity. But to improve the productivity and to save time, AI should solve really complex problems. And this is what we found in every interview that we had. The complexity of the AI solution goes hand in hand with the satisfaction of the user, which was not great finding for us. And they had high expectations about it, but they don't want only complex tasks. They want the AI to be proactive about them. So once they open it, they wanted to have done its homework, to already had analyzed everything, to analyze the environment, in our case, for example, to analyze the walks. But the important thing is that based on this analysis, they wanted just to provide suggestions for optimization, and yet they to be the ones taking the final action. So we gathered this data. We now start thinking of prioritizing the use cases, adding some new use cases. But since, based on this data, we had to now have a plan for the whole development, we felt a need to support it with some other data. We felt a need to get some quantity. And that's why we did a survey next to it. So we gathered the quantity. Again, there we did the same ranking activity. And I will just mention that from the surveys, we actually gathered absolutely the same data as the one in the qualitative approach. So that's it. We have the use cases, we have everything, and now it's time to design it. So we design it, we develop it, and now it's time for the researcher to validate it. And what I had to do as a researcher that needs to validate an AI assistant, I had to do usability testing for an AI assistant. So, as I already told you, users want to solve complex problems using an AI. And this is what we did. We listened to them, we developed this use case, and this is what we tried. Can the user solve a complex problem using an AI assistant? But we have to also find what is the usability of this AI assistant, how the user perceive the flow, whether they like the suggestions that AI have, whether they like to have this additional confirmation at the end. So that's why we focused on this as well. And another thing is that this is a completely new topic to us. We don't have data about it. We don't know how the user interacts with it. So we try to use the usability testing to gather some data about what are the typical prompts a user would write and how they would write them. And that's why at the end of the usability testing, we had this open question where we asked the user, write something that you would write if you had this AI assistant in your tenant in the cloud platform. And since I was doing usability testing, I would like to share a few challenges that I definitely had while doing it. So the first very important thing is that we don't know what will happen during the session. Even if we are validating complex UI, even if we have several branches, as a moderator, I can always predict what will happen and how to react based on it. But with an AI, it can provide a different answer in every session or a structure of the answer. So we should adapt to this and we should be prepared how to react based on the output. Another thing is that users want complex solutions, but even AI needs time to solve them, to solve complex problems. And it's one thing to wait 30 seconds on your own. And the side note is that actually users has tolerance towards this, so they can wait, but not in a usability testing session. So I had to think whether should I feel this awkward silence, or whether I should see how they react to it or if they search for any kind of context. So this is something I will be now prepared for the future sessions. And the last thing, and this is to some extent related to the first one, is that the AI can hallucinate a lot. It could not derive, it could happen that it won't derive a meaningful answer in the session. So what we do then? Do we schedule another session? Is the user failing since they can't write the right prompts, if we can say it like this? Or is the AI failing? So what we do with this data? So I try to define some metrics, or basically to adjust some of the existing metrics for usability testing so that we can put them in some kind of framework that would actually test the usability of an AI assistant. And the first one is a standard one. It's the success, whether the user managed to complete the task. But here the important thing is not whether they managed to do it on their own, but by interacting with the AI assistant. Then we measure the time taken for an AI to provide solutions. So we measure this for each prompt, and then we sum all the times. And the last thing we measured, if we talk about a graphical user interface, we usually measure the number of clicks and the most optimal path. But here, we measured how many prompts were necessary for the user to reach the goal. These were the metrics, we collected them, and here I will share two findings. Again, I think they will be relevant for you if you start working in this field. And it was really nice to observe how they invalidate our assumptions. So the first thing is that our users have some strict things to do, some flows to follow, and we imagine that they would just have a command to the AI assistant. It would ask for an input, the user would answer, it would say, okay, done, do you have anything else? And then the user would provide the other command. And we even have buttons that the user could select during the conversation. So we had this strict step-by-step approach while interacting with the AI assistant. And what happened during the usability testing, we found out that users love to write complex prompts, but in usability testing, they directly copy the task from the chat and paste it inside the AI assistant, and they expected that it would derive some meaningful, some sense out of it, and would actually complete the task. So we had to change this after in our design. Then another thing is that, again, our expectation to follow this step-by-step approach, and the AI asked for an input, and it provides some suggestions. And this is one very important thing that I observed in all the research that I did so far. This is that users see an AI assistant in a working environment. They see it as an additional colleague that knows everything, and that they could ask it a question whenever they want. And this is what happened during the session. So they had a command that the AI asked for an input, and they asked it, what should I select? What is your recommendation? So we had to change this. We had to allow the user to ask some questions in between. So we gather all of this data. We have the use cases. We have now validated the usability of the AI assistant. And based on the recommendations that we derived from that, we developed some of the use cases. But actually, we are already in the process of releasing this. And the important thing for this is that for everything that will be released right now, and not only that will be released, for everything that was done so far, we have supported it with user data. Every our decision and assumption has been supported with user data. And the important thing here is that we sat together with the whole development team, with all the technical experts, and we explored every tiny user story and request, and we prioritized that and eventually discussed its feasibility. For example, an insight is that some of the things that were really requested by the users won't be feasible, at least to be done in an AI assistant. But how we got to this point, so how they started thinking about user experience, not directly developing, I had to do a lot of research. And I think this is what the researcher does when they need to implement AI. They just do research, but I think there are two very important aspects of it. First, we should adapt to this technology. We should now change our focus, and we should start looking at the conversation. We should count number of prompts. We should be prepared for non-finite outputs. But until we get to this point, the more important thing is that the user researcher thinks about the user, and they think whether something brings value to the user. So they should not follow a trend, and they should make sure they don't use AI just to solve non-existing problems. Thank you.
It's quite rare a speaker to finish ahead of the schedule, so
Yeah.
I guess it's lunch coming. Any questions coming out of the audience? Oh, there we go.
Hi, Nadia. Thank you for the presentation. I have one quick question. You said that the research and the design parts were skipped and there was already developed a product. How do you usually turn back and navigate to the first stage? How do you convince the people that the research is actually quite important and necessary? I can say from my experience how this was skipped in my company, let's say, and how hard it is to return to the first stage. So what is the, let's say, solution or superpower to do this? Thank you.
I still don't know the superpower. I have different experience with every team that I work with. And here I would just add that they were already to the development step because of this pressure that we need to offer AI quickly. So they had to do something about it before finding a researcher. And I just, for this team, I think I just had the luxury that they spent a lot of time building even the basic use cases because it's a complex technology. So they spent a lot of time doing it, and I just use the time to find people and to start gathering data. And as I said, I had the luxury, actually, the team to listen to this. But we already have the use cases developed, like the effort is already put there, and we will release it, even though some of them are not relevant for the user. But at least they pay attention to all the data. So I would actually convince them with enough data, and they paid attention to all of it. And for the ones that were not prioritized, at least for the things that were not done yet, we managed to use data about it. I think it's up from team to team. I don't have a general advice about it.
Thanks.
As we've just heard, know that you don't have a superpower, you do have one, to listen carefully, so.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? There are two more questions.
Hi, I have a question about the analytics for the prompts. How are you solving the privacy problem? Because it's something that the user inputs. Are you analyzing the real?
No. Here we are in the phase of beta testing. We are in the phase of beta testing. So, and an important thing about the AI assistant is that it doesn't take any data of the user. And for this, we don't have analytics. This number of prompts and how prompts look like, this is still from qualitative approach. This while still from the user interviews and the usability testing. And important finding is that users want to have this kind of possibility to add personal data so that they could customize the assistant, but customers don't want it. So the actual users want it, but customers don't want it, and we adapt to the customers, and we will take care of their privacies, and for the future we won't analyze this kind of thing. We don't have access to their prompts.
You can introduce a user experience improvement program where they're opting in.
Exactly.
The customers that want to benefit from this, or you can give more rich recommendations, or you can add on the collection of the data. So there should be a definitely opt-in with a privacy legal consent that they sign. And then you can go for it. But yes, I wanted to understand because it's SAP and the customers would be very cautious to give their data.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But definitely you need to work into this direction because as the AI is very ambiguous in the results that's producing, you need to have at least some basic or aggregated stable data to act on because you're currently in the launch phase, but yeah, you don't know what would happen.
Yeah, exactly.
With the mass users.
Exactly. This is the interesting thing to me, to be a researcher that does the research for AI technology because everything is new and I have to think of for everything, for every possible research that could be done and now adapt it to AI.
Thank you so much. There's a question over here. Here in the front row.
Thank you for your presentation. I would love if you share your thoughts on this. You know how until this moment it's like UX and UI going hand in hand. And do you think that in future it will transform more to AI and UX and like transforming these complex screens with many menus and buttons into more conversational dialogues?
I think this depends on many aspects. So, as I said at the beginning, we put everything in an AI assistant so that we overcome the UX problems that were there with the screens. And we quickly found out that this tiny box of conversation is definitely not serving the purpose of everything that's been done so far in a graphical user interface. Another thing is that one of the use cases that was planned was in terms of navigation. So developers assumed the navigation of the cloud platform is really complex, and users would like to just quickly do the things in the assistant. What we found out that users are used to it, and they don't have any complaints, and they would still do it in the UI for all the simple tasks they have and all the clicks they need to do. If it just saves 2 steps, if you do it in an AI, they would still go to the UI and do it. But as I said, they would use it for the complex analytics, for scanning the background and so on. But another important thing, aspect I see now with incorporating AI is that the documentation becomes really important because the AI uses it as a source of input. And when the user asks for a question or what would you recommend, it gets data from the documentation or for any other specifics. And if this is wrong, or if we have a wrong example in the documentation, then the AI would provide a wrong solution, and this would definitely impact the satisfaction. So I think UI would definitely stick, but now we're adding the documentation more to the topic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, guys, for the questions.